Hello, welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. I am your host, Megan, a lifelong movement artist and facilitator. Each week, I invite you inside of the honest conversations that I have been having with some incredibly inspiring movement and well-being practitioners, as we unpack the beautiful roller coaster it is to pursue a lifestyle built around movement and well-being. Join us as we share and reflect on the moments where a movement lights your soul on fire, to the situations where you begin to question everything. Hello, welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. Today, I am actually doing a solo episode. This is your bonus episode for season 1. We have now wrapped all 10 episodes, and all of the behind the scenes prep is going on for season 2, and I'm so excited to share these upcoming episodes with you. But I just wanted to jump on today and give a little bit of a reflection and a moment to share a bit more about me as the host and all of the insights that I've gained through this season, as well as hopes for this space. So, yeah, I'm going to start as normal. I will introduce myself. I am Megan Bader. I'm originally from Apex, North Carolina, and I'm currently living in Mauritius, which is a tiny country off the coast of Africa. But for the past 5 years, I've been living in London, UK, after studying at London Contemporary Dance School and then freelancing as a performer, a teacher, a choreographer, a yoga teacher as well. And yes, I'm super excited to be here today, and it's quite uncomfortable for me actually to get on here and speak just with myself. But I think it's important. It's a conversation I was having with some friends about how to reflect on the season and also allow listeners maybe a chance to get to know me if they don't already. Uh, so I'll start with the same question that I start with every guest, which is, how am I showing up for my movement and well-being practice today? And actually, today I was saying to a friend that Monday mornings, which is what it is right now while I'm recording, are one of my favorite times of the week at the minute. It's a really nice moment in my schedule where there's some quiet, nobody's kind of impacted my energy yet. I really get to set the energy for myself on a Monday morning, and I have a bit of time to get the more administrative behind the scenes tasks of my life done. Um, Yeah, so I've started a bit slow because weekends here tend to be quite busy with things around the island, getting to know the country, the space, because I only moved here in September. And I took some time this morning to do some meditation and also do a little bit of work on a meditation course that I'm currently on, as well as some laundry and a food shop, like more of these administrative tasks almost to set me up for a successful week. Um, yeah, I think I'm also showing up for my movement practice by getting these things done, because then this afternoon I have some time planned to actually have some self movement practice in a dance space before I teach this evening. Uh, And I'm enjoying this routine that I have going on where I make sure that I arrive to the studio early enough to get some self-practice in before teaching. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at today. I think that's a good summary, good start. But yeah, actually I'm also just trying to listen to the energy levels within my like being after being in a completely new space for 3 months and heading home soon for the holidays. And being in a completely different like climate. I think my body is still trying to act in like summer mode, and I'm trying to still have some peaks and troughs, because it is summer here, but also how to allow the energy levels to moderate. Uh, I think we move now into a little bit of a reflection on season one. So this season, I've had the chance to bring on 10 incredible guests. If you haven't listened already, we started with Charmaine Hiller, who is a dear friend of mine. We studied together in London, and she's someone who just really feels like a light in any space that I'm in with her. And our episode together really was just exploring like the the chaos and excitement of a freelance career. And I think, yeah, also time-wise, we were looking at that at the end of the summer in London. And so like what does that look like coming back into a city, coming back into the city that you live in, maybe also after traveling? How do you navigate like changes of pace? Uh, and it was a really nice episode for me. I left feeling super inspired and excited by the community that I feel in London, and the warmth of Charmaine and her like generosity as a mover. It was a great episode to start off the season, which led me into an episode with a really close friend from childhood, actually, named Stasia Rich. Stasia is also from North Carolina originally and is a dance artist living in North Carolina. And it was quite cool to have a moment to speak with her because she's someone who's kind of a through line in my own dance life, my own movement life. She's seen a lot of different sides of me actually. Like she also saw the only period of my life that maybe I would say I didn't have access to movement. I was quite injured and working through a lot of personal issues, and Stage just saw me trying to navigate that period, which was a journey for me. Uh, but also, yeah, we've been able to kind of build a really supportive friendship with a huge distance in between us, time difference and everything, and different periods of my life, different periods of her life, and yeah, we also spoke a lot about like support systems, work-life balance, and teaching, which I think for me was also quite exciting because it was at the beginning of me teaching here in Mauritius, and I, I'm teaching at a really lovely school here. Uh, with a lot of different students who are all really exciting to teach. Um, but I've been learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about my teaching through trying to teach in another language. And just to be able to have a chance to reflect on that with Stasia at the beginning of the year was personally for me a very exciting moment. And it led me into the episode with Steffi. Steffi Fashkin is someone I also met in university, uh, originally from Cornwall and living in London now. Steffi is someone who is a powerhouse in the dance movement industry. I love to watch Steffi performance. She's such an incredible performer, and we had a nice conversation also about like cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary practice, cross training because she has a strong martial arts practice and also is really involved in design work. And so we spoke a lot about just yeah, navigating these different practices, these different creative practices and movement practices, and what each can offer you. And I think for me, it really reminded me of how to zoom out and see like what each thing is offering me and what is missing, and how to use this kind of analysis to set me up for a sustainable success rather than something that burns out super quick. And yeah, obviously it's an ongoing process, and I definitely had my own moments of burnout this term. But it was a nice conversation to remind myself of these things and reflect with someone who inspires me a lot in this way. And then that led us on to episode 4 with Ella Mesma. Ella is someone actually who I first met in university as a she was choreographing on my year, but I was not in the piece. It was like I was in someone else's piece. But I first met Ella in this capacity, and we all took a class with each choreographer, even if we weren't in their piece. And I just felt from that day like Ella is someone that I wanted to keep in my life. She's such a compassionate and generous woman, but also really knows how to share this sense of care for herself and for others. And with Ella, we spoke a lot about we spoke a lot about a lot of things. But I had the chance to work with Ella last year as a colleague on a project with the first years at London Contemporary Dance School. And to see her lead the space and to lead the space alongside her, I just felt really, really inspired by the way that she shapes the space, the way that she integrates an importance of care and prioritization of the human being in the space ahead of the creation and the dancing. That becomes like a non-negotiable, and to me allows the artists in the space to offer so much more. We also spoke a lot about, yeah, how really I walked away from this episode feeling super inspired, especially in the realm of like tuning inwards and what actually is already within us that we can already listen to. It's something I have been exploring a lot this year. It's something a close mentor said to me recently, like, you know more answers than you think, and how to honor this. Because I think for me, at least, it's easy to panic sometimes and create an alternate reality where there's so much to learn. Obviously, there is so much to learn, but I sometimes strip away what I already know. And so this conversation with Ella really reminded me to kind of tune back inwards, to turn the camera back towards me and go like, what is my body already telling me? What is my heart already telling me? And how can we act from there? Um, and how does this empower artists to create more authentically? Which led us into episode 5 with Mac. Mac Korda is originally from London and Croatia. Mac is a dance artist who I studied with in London and is a really dear friend of mine now. Uh, but we spoke a lot about like personal practice and finding a way to be able to balance creativity and technique because I think for both of us that's something that's really, really important and for so many dancers, but like a lot of times in spaces these days it feels like it kind of becomes polarized. Like either it's a creative class or it's a technique class. How can you have both coexisting at all times? Which is actually a theme that came up quite a bit this season with Mac, with Tina, with Laura, with so many people. And yeah, something that really stood out for me was this idea of like the yes and the no. How can you have the yes and the no at all times? Uh, how can you have the yin and the yang? How can you find like this duality? And what does duality offer you as an artist, as a creator, as a teacher, and maybe most importantly, as a student? Uh, yeah, I really loved speaking with Mac about this. It made me super excited just to get back in the studio and practice myself and keep researching that like this journey of being a mover and a dancer and a creator is ultimately never over. And for me, I think it's something that I like almost have made a promise to myself that it will always be a part of my life. And what that looks like will ebb and flow, of course, but how can I always keep tuning back to the joy, to the reasons why, and from there we can continue to research. Which actually led us into an episode with Tina Afyambriova, who is an Armenian and Czech dance artist, educator, performer, uh, movement director, who I have worked with as she was my teacher in school and in other scenarios, in other workshop settings and classes. But also I worked alongside her on some jobs at London Contemporary Dance School, more in an administrative setting. Uh, and we spoke a lot about the the value, the depth, the gravity of the situation it is to be an educator, to be facilitating a space. And I think it's something that I personally keep returning to in my own reflections this year. Teaching is a big part of the work I'm doing this year. And it's something I really, really believe in that Tina and I were reflecting on is like teaching is not just to come in and teach a class and leave, like, but there is so much importance in the way that the space is shaped, the way that the intention is set, the sense of care and compassion, and like how can we show up authentically, share what we know, and also open up the fact that nobody knows everything. Um, and how much intentionality can we bring into this space? Because I think it's a space where we're asking the people in the space to be so vulnerable, to be so trusting, and we also have to do a lot of work there. And it's something I really, really believe in. And with that, we also spoke a lot about how you can find a way to have a space that's really compassionate, that's really caring, that equally is really challenging, really taxing for the body, you know? How can we push the limits? How can we take risks? But equally, how can we bring a root of compassion, a root of honesty, a root of trust, and a root of care? Uh, which I think leads really nicely into what Anna Smootney, a Canadian mover and dancer and yoga teacher that I met this summer and I spoke about in episode 7, where we spoke a lot about like why maybe for her yoga ended up coming into her life, and now it's a huge part of her practice, it's a huge part of her career, and equally for her, I think something that I found quite interesting to listen to was her relationship with like long distance walking. Uh, And ultimately, these rituals, these practices of tuning inwards, these practices of returning to the body, and how each can offer something different. I left with so many exciting reflections after this episode. I feel like most of these episodes I can't encapsulate anywhere near everything we spoke about. But something that I also was really excited to speak with Anna about is like the power of movement and the power of art in having the conversations that are hard, having the conversations around change that are maybe hard to say with words sometimes, but how can we come together? How can we create a space rooted in the change we're trying to make and in the thing we're trying to say? We spoke a lot about the situations going on in the world and some new choreographic endeavors that Anna personally has going on. And I just left feeling super inspired by her honesty, by her openness, by her grit in the hard moments. Yeah. And coming into our last 3 episodes, we had Summer Jump, Laura Haywood, and G1O. Summer is actually a really important mentor in the podcast as well. She was hugely helpful for me in uh, the build-up of this podcast, and also is someone that I met on my yoga teacher training. Actually, she was one of my yoga teacher training teachers, and she works in well-being in so many capacities. She's created a well-being agency called Arc Space, alongside someone named Zenzi, and with her we had a really interesting conversation about injury, navigating inclusion, what barriers maybe people are facing to get into movement spaces, and uh, this, yeah, socio-political issue that it is to be involved in a movement practice or movement industry and like this well-being industry. I think it's something that can feel quite taboo sometimes nowadays, but equally can feel quite uh hard to access, or can be, not feel, but is quite hard to access sometimes. And how can we, as movement facilitators, maybe break down these barriers as industry leaders, etc. And as personals, for individuals, how can we navigate this personally? How can we continue to fight this, continue to show up, make that first step to coming in to the studio or the space or whatever, and also find grace for ourselves when we can't. This leads me into Laura, who I actually met in the UK as well, but teaching on the children and youth program at the place. I was her assistant, and from day one, I was like, wow, I have to learn from this woman. There's so much to learn, you know. She's someone who really prioritizes inclusivity in a movement space, and it's something that really shifted my perspective, my understanding of how to do this, how possible it is, and how possible it is in a way that doesn't change the expectations of uh, how far we can take the movement practice, you know. And so we spoke a lot about this concept, this practice of inclusion, uh, both in the way of like the journey into movement and also like as facilitators creating these spaces. So as always, I left feeling super, super excited and inspired by the work that can continue to be done and the power of teaching and how special it is to be able to teach and guide movers and young people and people of all ages and all types of bodies, how to get to know their body a bit more, how to understand who they are a bit more. Um, and that leads me on to finally episode 10. Last but not least, G1O, who is someone else from my year in school, Atlantic Burnett School. Yeah, G1 and I spoke a lot about a piece that she recently made with her grandma and also her journey into movement and how that has affected her relationship with certain ideas as a choreographer and certain intentions and how different artists along the way have shaped her journey, shaped her approach to really prioritize the human being. And for me, it was super inspiring to hear this as she integrated and invited someone into her movement space that had never moved before, but is also a family member. And I remember her speaking about like the importance of love for what she does and her grandma coming into this project. And I left feeling super, super inspired by that. I think for me, it's something I would love to have a similar experience to be able to, uh, with the right piece and with the right time, obviously not to force it, but how special it is to be able to invite someone like that that's that close to you, that's seen your journey as a human into this thing that you love so much. And also, yeah, just was excited and inspired by the journey of, or the value of honoring the humans, as always. And so I think leaving season one, that's what I feel really the most excited and inspired by is like, I feel super special to have had all of these guests come on, these incredible humans, to have them share and open and be so honest and authentic about their journey because I think the most important thing for me about this podcast is it's just a sharing of this ongoing journey. Nothing is a finished product, nothing is over. It's actually kind of the opposite, and I think that is kind of what I want to share is how can we use this space to continue to learn together, to continue to change the narrative of who can access a movement practice, who can access a movement space and a creation space, and how can we continue to learn and grow together through that. And I think something else that I've taken away from this season is just the power of duality, the power of balance, and being able to have two sides of everything. Uh, It's something I've always really believed in, but I think through this season, it just kind of solidified to me that that's something I really believe in. That to see season one as a whole, I'm like, wow, it's just so important to really be able to step back and go like, okay, a bit of everything is good. A bit of obviously in dosage even there, but what does duality offer us? What does compassion offer us? And what does uh, practice offer us? So thank you so much for tuning into season one. I'm super excited to be heading into season two. Season two will begin being posted on the 27th of December. And we have an incredible lineup of guests on the way. And this season, there's also some changes. We actually have an exciting new element where the previous guest will ask the following guest a question, a closing question. But as always, we'll begin with the opener question. And please really do share if there's anything you would like us to talk about or you would like to hear about. Whether you're a mover yourself, whether you have a young person who is a mover. And if there's anything you also took away from season one, I would love to hear. It's super useful for me to be able to continue to shape these seasons around what is interesting to you all, what is inspiring you, etc. And thank you so much for all the support, all the listens, all the interactions with the episodes. We had some really cool moments on Spotify Wrapped, and I am excited to share them on Instagram. Probably by now, as we're listening, you'll already have seen them. So thank you for your support so far, and I'm so excited to see where this continues to go. But yeah, maybe soon I'll jump on and give you a little bit more of an episode about me and my practice. But for right now, I think it's important to just continue to hold the space for these artists who have offered their time, offered their energy, their generosity. And a big, big thank you from me, from Conversations for the Moving Self, and onwards and upwards. Thank you so much for listening to episode 11 of Conversations for the Moving Self. This bonus episode was super fun to record, and honestly, I could reflect all day long about the incredible, juicy reflections we have had so far. And if you'd like to hear something like this again, please give me a shout. But we need your support. Please follow and subscribe to your listening platform as well as the social media that you use to find out about updates. It's super, super helpful and will allow us to continue making the episodes. And if you have anyone you would like to hear from for season two, please leave a comment or send me a message. I'm super, super excited to see where season two goes. Sending you all warm wishes. Thank you so much from CMS. Lots of love.